Everyone knows I've always been a liker of Call of Duty. I played most of the big ones back when this franchise was at its peak, and a couple of the recent ones, but I've always been interested in a deeper dive, so I'm gonna start taking a look at these games. Probably all of them. Unless you want me to stop, then I'll look at them even harder. Give me a like if you want me to stop. First-person shooters. Games where you shoot the first person. When you hear that phrase, what game pops into your head right away? If you're a cool guy, it might be one of these games. But when talking about the modern FPS, the Call of Duty franchise has to be the genre's Lucas Collectopus. Of course, modern COD may not be your personal top choice when it comes to a quality FPS, but it's hard to argue that this is not the most well-known franchise on the scene these days. For better or for worse. But it didn't always was this way. Technically, first-person shooter games go all the way back to the 70s, with vector graphic classics like Walk Through Hallway and unauthorized Star Trek sim. Although I've checked these games out, and I have to say the words first-person, shooter, video, and game are all used extremely loosely. They still had a ways to go. So then you had like Pac-Man Maze Shooter in the 80s, then Hover Tank, which was similar to Pac-Maze, but was more cool and better graphics. Of course, things really took off with Wolfenstein 3D in 1992, which was followed by Doom, then Quake, then GoldenEye, then Halo. We already know about all that. I'm trying to keep the history lesson brief here, right? GoldenEye was, of course, really popular on the Nintendo 64, but otherwise all these games were pretty much only PC games, and most of them would get some kind of console port eventually, but shooters on consoles were mostly a joke until Halo came out on the Xbox and redefined everyone's expectations for what a console shooter could be. Despite this leap forward, the first Call of Duty would release 2 years later for PC only. My dedicated viewers here on the Call of Duty channel know that I always prefer my gaming to be done on a gaming console for a multitude of reasons. Every single game in the main COD series after the first one was released on console day and date, and while there was an remastered version of the original once on the Xbox 360 and PS3 as a digital download, it hasn't been available for a long while, and no physical version was ever released. So the people that really need me to be gaming on a PC can take the dub on this one. I booted up Call of Duty in its 4:3 aspect ratio, couldn't go into full screen because it made the image super dark, and jumped into battle. And so you see, I did like this game. But I did not like this game for the shooting. The shooting was not fun, I do say. I have a hard time with mouse and keyboard controls already, and it didn't help that the muzzle flash really blocks your vision to the point where I feel like I'm just firing blind most of the time, which was also not helped by the high accuracy that enemies seem to have, and ooh, they get the drop on you pretty easily. I was always getting ambushed. I did not feel very cool. And even on normal difficulty, I had to go through a lot of levels many times. I could only get through them by memorizing where each and every enemy would spawn. A surprising amount of gameplay is focused on sabotaging artillery, but maybe that's very historically accurate, I have no idea. You carry 3 guns, 2 main guns and a sidearm. I can't wait to see when this is changed to the traditional 2 guns only system, please no spoilers on that. There are no shotguns to be found, that's mildly interesting. You still collect health packs like in shooters of yore. I always associate the regenerating health system so closely with this franchise, so that was a mild surprise. Don't spoil when that changes, thank you. This was also one of the earliest games to popularize aiming down sights as a mechanic. Definitely not the first, but that is another mechanic I associate closely with this franchise, and it makes sense that it would be here from the beginning, although it doesn't feel very good on a mouse. The checkpoint system was not great, too few of course, but also they seemed to be somewhat random. I would end up in some tough spots just respawning into gunfire over and over, and other times where I'd run past a spot I'd been past a few times, and then it would give me a checkpoint, and I don't know why it didn't give it to me before. Not good for me, too hard for a little baby such as myself. What I did like about this game was the presentation. These games always seem to have great production value, even the bad ones. The graphics hold up pretty well, but the atmosphere is what's still the most impressive. The calm anticipation on the training base tutorial area, the ominous quiet of the village in the first mission, then the stress and chaos when the shooting inevitably starts. The score was done by Michael Giacchino, who, if you don't know, would go on to compose some of the best musical scores of the 21st century and the Batman score, so maybe show a little bit more respect. The American campaign is very patriotic and definitely the easiest of the 3. Remember when games used to get more difficult the further you went? You play as some kind of Midwest farm boy thrust into battle who slowly gains more confidence throughout the story. I'm assuming that's what happens. The story wasn't exactly groundbreaking and the characters weren't very easy to follow, although I did start to recognize some of your squad mates' names after a few levels, so maybe they're not so forgettable. The story itself is mostly presented through these boring-ass mission briefings, which I mostly zoned out during. Luckily, the game is based on true events. I didn't worry about that, though. I felt like I had enough context to understand that there's not and you shoot them and then you win World War II. That was enough for me. The American campaign ends with you saving some British officers from this chateau. I really enjoyed the Indiana Jones secret fireplace passageway. That was cute. When you do get to the British officers, you find out that one of them is Captain Price, like from Call of Duty? He's in Call of Duty? Raise your hand if you knew that Captain Price goes all the way back to the first game. Yeah, see, very few of you. He accompanies you on the majority of missions in the British campaign. Going undercover on the ship was fun. Captain Price sacrifices himself at some point, and you eventually blow up a couple V2 rockets. The Soviet campaign is where things really change gears. In addition to being the hardest part of the game, it's also pretty bleak. You start off in the middle of a terrifying scene, being shipped into the Battle of Stalingrad. Your boat is getting railed with bullets before you're even close to shore. You have your commander standing on the boat yelling at you, in English for some reason, that any cowards or deserters will be shot. A couple of your terrified comrades jump over the side because they can't handle it, and the commander puts his money where his mouth is and shoots these kids in the back. When you miraculously make it to shore, you have to sneak your way up this beach with no guns, simply dodging the hail of bullets. The bleak tone never lets up. Pretty much every level is just desolate, snowy, oppressive, ruined cities. I mean, some of the other set pieces could be downright pleasant. Even when you jump ahead a few years, the vibe doesn't change at all until the very end of the game when you raise the Soviet flag on the Reichstag building and win the war. But we end with a Russian guy reading a letter he wrote to his wife, in English for some reason, about winning the war and going to shake hands with an American soldier, and the brothership he felt with a man who he didn't even speak the same language as, even though again the Russian guy was saying this in English, so still very inspiring. And then the credits are kind of fun. They take you through some of the set pieces in the game from this kind of model display look angle of them. This is also where I found out that Giovanni Ribisi and Jason Statham were in this game as two characters I don't remember. Very cool. I was kind of interested in checking out the online mode, but I wasn't able to get into a match with people, but that's okay because I'm pretty much just here to talk about the campaigns and how high quality of a single player experience these games are. At the end of the day, if you're like me and you like learning about the history of gaming, then this is of course a must play at some point. It's still pretty fun, but if you're looking for a solid World War II shooter, you have way better options in 2025, even within this franchise. But this game is short, decently fun, not too frustrating on lower difficulties, the presentation is still really impressive, and whether you like it or not, is still a very important game. I like seeing how the aesthetic is so much classier than the loud, in-your-face, extreme stimulation Mountain Dew hit your vape pen vibe of modern COD, and I'm straight psyched to explore the rest of these. Finally trying the ones I've never played, revisiting the old ones I loved, and finding new games to hate on. Not 100% sure I'm gonna do all these right away. I don't know, we'll see how this goes. Anyone worried about my GTA 5 video? Don't worry, I'm definitely working on it, but it's probably going to take about as long as my GTA 4 video, so I wanted to find some games that are less deep that I can make some shorter videos about in the meantime so the channel doesn't die. Probably pepper in some other stuff here and there too. If any of that sounds bearable to you, well why don't you plant some C4 on that subscribe button and get to a safe distance.